Hey, this is Pastor Ryan. Thanks for joining us for this week's Sunday Preview. The passage this week is 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. First, we want to put the passage in its larger context. We have three sections in 1 Peter: the salvation of the believer, the submission of the believer, and the suffering of the believer. This covers how we gain our holiness, how we live in harmony with the world around us, and how we need to live in humility with each other. Let's go ahead and get right in the passage. Peter's tone is alarming as he writes, "The end of all things is at hand." Because this is our status, he calls us to be self-controlled and sober-minded. The reason for these commands is for the sake of our prayers. Peter then says, above all, increasing the priority of the following command, we are called to keep loving, a verb indicating continuing action. The target is one another. It's not just any kind of love, but it should be an earnest, purposeful love. A reason is given for this command. Peter says it's because love covers a multitude of sins. In verse 9, Peter gives a third command, to show hospitality. The target of this command is to one another. This hospitality is to be shown without grumbling. Then we have the fourth command in verse 10. As each has, not might, received a gift, we're called to use it, specifically for one another. The reason is because we're supposed to be good stewards of God's varied grace. Peter follows this with two examples, speaking and serving. Peter's concern is that in everything, God may be glorified, because glory and dominion belong to Him. This glorification should go on forever and ever. Before we go, we want to take a look at a couple of broad themes. First, there seems to be a relationship between the end of all things and Peter's call for us to be self-controlled, sober-minded, loving one another, showing hospitality, serving, and speaking. Second, why doesn't Peter, instead of focusing on love for one another, tell us to focus on the unbelievers around you? And a few questions to think through. First, Peter says the end of all things is at hand, but this was 2,000 years ago. Was Peter wrong here? Second, what does it mean to speak an oracle of God? Is this something we're called to do today? And finally, what is the relationship between our being self-controlled, sober-minded, loving one another, showing hospitality to each other, and a willingness to serve one another, and God being glorified in everything through Jesus Christ? Well, thanks for joining us for the Sunday Preview. We hope this spurs on your thinking and prepares you for our time together on Sunday morning. God's blessings on your week.